welcome to yet another exciting edition of Trendz Travel. As usual, I'm your host for today, Eloise Scoble, and today we found ourselves in the heart of Sandton City at Epicure, which is an amazing place to be. Coming up first, Africa's leading art fair exhibited a wide range of some of the best curated artworks from across the continent right here in Johannesburg. Let's have a look.
Back in the busy business district of Johannesburg, the FNB Joburg Art Fair hosted over 200 galleries, non-profits and institutions, all in celebration of galleries that have been with the fair since it officially opened its doors 11 years ago.
It really has evolved. What you're seeing today is totally different from what was there in 2007 when it started. You know, you're seeing installations today, you're seeing sound pieces, which was not there, 11 years ago. And, I took you through a few pieces that are, the highlights of this fair. The Slave Passing Piece by Sue Williamson, and for me, having been within the art world for about 23 years, I first saw that piece during the 1997 Johannesburg Biennale.
This work is called Messages from the Atlantic Passage, and it's a work which looks at the Atlantic slave trade, and each of these 3 tanks that you see here with the nets above them represents the specific journey of one ship which took people from the west of Africa and took them across the Atlantic to the Americas. And each one has a certain number of bottles. On each bottle is engraved the details of one person on one of those voyages. I took this information from old records, from old shipping records. So it's a memorialization of that time and a look at just a little fragment of that history.
This art fair is not themed, however, the works in this exhibition space are certainly tied together.
It's more education, it's more exposure, and it's encouraging the artist to push the envelope. It's encouraging the artist to look what is around them, and it's commentary on the issues that they live in today for posterity 20 years from now, because artists are, honestly, they reveal what is happening to us. They are the reflection of what is happening, and the young people, they live within that. They live during those happenings, those what is happening around them. Can you imagine if they look back? This is very historical to them, but the history is being disseminated by artists.
The works exhibited are not only from artists in South Africa. Many countries from the African continent came with their creativity into this showroom.
Back in Zimbabwe, right, there were these protests when, we're trying to overthrow, the leader and whatnot, right? So I happened to be part of that march, and what really intrigued me was that the army and civilians, were united in doing one thing, to accomplish one goal. Just on that part, so I kept on thinking about it, and the area in the air, everyone was just happy and whatnot. You can barely take selfies with soldiers, but then on that day we could do that stuff. So so I started meditating on that, the civilians and the soldiers, coming together to form one thing, and I just thought of showing it in an artwork. So if you look closely on the work, you see there are some camouflage reds, browns and greens, and also some civilian yellows.
People came out in numbers to experience these captivating artworks of our continent.
Well, my favorite would have to be the gallery from Addis Ababa. Well, the gallery is called Addis Fine Art. So, yeah, seeing different artworks out of South African context, yeah, it's really refreshing, and yeah, you get to learn more about what other people are doing around.
So far, what I've seen has been quite interesting. Quite a few topics being challenged. What I'm really enjoying is the expressiveness of the art and the willingness to challenge the norms. The norms of materiality, especially, I'm finding quite pleasant.
For me, this is the pinnacle of the arts. For us as spectators, also for the artists as creators. So this is a place where you come to see the best of the best in South Africa specifically and across the country. I happen to be part of a Lalela organization. We are actually doing guided tours of students from schools across Gauteng, and it's an exciting moment to see the moment when students start to connect with whatever is either an art piece or an exhibition or the space itself and what's going on. So this is brilliant.
It's amazing. I like to view those sculptures because I'm a sculpture student. So I was very impressed about the way they created the artworks. So yeah, I'm inspired.
This is just a very eye-opening experience, and yeah, we've seen a lot of great artworks, and I think somewhere that side they have Banelo Koza, so yeah, that was the highlight for me.
It was very amazing. My favorite part was that side, on the printmaking side. The way they use their techniques there, it's so wonderful. The way that guy did the lino cut. Well, as printmaking student, it really inspired me. Like, I'm looking forward to learn more about it.
We are super proud of our brand new look of Trendz Travel, and we'd like to know what you think about it. So why don't you get out your phones while we take a short break, and you can catch us on Twitter or on Instagram on Trendz and SABC using the hashtag Trendz Travel.
Ekurhuleni Artisans and Skills Training Center is a practical artisans and skills development center who equips students with the necessary knowledge and practical experience to enter the labor force as semi-skilled workers. There is a strong focus and need for skills training in specific areas like boiler making, rigging, pipe fitting, welding, CNC programming, plumbing, electrical, air conditioning and refrigeration, bricklaying, carpentry and painting at the center. Ensure your future today with the Ekurhuleni Artisans and Skills Training Center.
To be a part of something like this makes me proud, and I think that to be able to report the news in a fair, just, independent and impartial way is what the public broadcaster stands for.
The Cape Flats is under siege by the gangsters, by the drug dealers.
The community here say at this point in time they have had enough.
The end of the day, what is happening? The police do nothing. The doctors get lost. We are sick and tired of this.
We want the government to take note of us.
Talk to us about this Imbiza.
It's a national call for black people to come and have a conversation about the black condition. We have realized that after all that suffering, black people are still going through economic frustration. We also believe that heritage should be there to bring black and white together. We're not against the idea of rainbowism.
We are losing the best of kids. People that are fathers or pastors that comes from a church.
No taxi, nothing. We were not notified. I get to town, there's nothing.
Welcome back to Trendz Travel. Now, KZN Tourism have kicked off Tourism Month with a great big bang, and our colleague Njabulo was there and he was taken a bit out of his comfort zone, so let's see what he did.
You definitely can't miss the choo-choo steam train. As it slowly approached our platform, the sound and steam took us back to the 17th century, a time when steam trains were first introduced. Prepared overnight, this luxury train offered passengers a smooth and interesting experience.
The steam trains that haul the trains here now are a particularly unique train called a Garrett. The locomotive that hauled us today was GMAM 4047. And any train with the name G in it means it's a Garrett. And a Garrett locomotive has two engines, one on the front and one on the back of the same chassis and the same boiler. So a Garrett locomotive never goes forwards or backwards because one of the engines is always pushing and one is always pulling. So when you speak of a Garrett locomotive, you say it's going chimney first or tender first. You don't say it's going forwards or backwards.
The journey encompassed grasslands, mist belts, indigenous forest and nature reserves. Traveling at 23 kilometers per hour with up to 300 passengers on board, the scenery was breathtaking. The Underberg Polo Fields is where our next mode of transport was waiting for us. Hot air ballooning is not for the faint-hearted, but once my nerves settled in, the experience was breathtaking.
Well, one of the two things is always to remember. One is that it's probably the most gentle form of flying there is. Secondly, the safest form of flying. It's always got a romantic appeal for people. And yeah, really a great popular adventure activity, you know, that can be enjoyed by everybody from 2 to 20, you know. Sorry.
So right now, what's the current speed we are flying at?
We're probably doing about 2 kilometers an hour, and we're sitting at about 800 feet above the ground. And if you look around there, you'll see the beautiful Drakensberg above the clouds, and our shadow of the balloon you can just make out there in the clouds as well. Balloons are always controlled by the wind. The direction and the speed is determined by the wind. The only thing I can do as a pilot in the balloon is take it up or bring it down. And no accelerators, no indicators, no brakes. That's the balloon for you. The most important thing is wear nice stout clothing, not high-heeled shoes and things like that. Assume the landing position, which we briefed you on beforehand. That's very important to hold tight when we come in for landing. And other than that, that's the main safety issues that there are, really.
We cruised at 30 kilometers per hour at 1,000 feet off the ground with a 360-degree view of the majestic Drakensberg Mountains. After 40 minutes of enjoying the sunrise, we went paragliding in Bulwer, where we experienced the wild skies.
What's going to happen is we're going to strap you basically in. You're going to stand up straight. As soon as you're going to pull the wing up, you're going to sort of step forward, you know, so we can get power into the wing. And then what's going to happen, as soon as the wing comes up, the wind is going to take us back. So you're maybe going to stay 1 or 2 steps back. So just stay upright, the most important.
Safety tips: stay away from strong wind. Strong wind is a problem. Always learn to fly with somebody who's a qualified instructor. Always go tandem flying with a qualified tandem pilot. If you go with unqualified people, it can be quite risky. In these harnesses, okay, you'll see it's very bulky, okay. What you've got is there's a bag to carry out all our rucksacks and everything. There's a reserve parachute sitting in the bottom here in case something goes wrong. Okay, by law we have to have the reserve parachute, but we also have a big airbag on this harness, and on that one there an air foam back protector. So that's because we're flying in a sitting position. If you get your landing wrong, you hit the ground very hard on your bum. Okay, and you don't have to fall hard to break your coccyx or anything like that. So we have these back protectors that are certified to withstand a certain amount of impact, so that if you land hard on your bum, you still have a soft landing.
Our KwaZulu-Natal tourism experience ended with our attendance to the Lilizela Tourism Awards, where those who have made a mark in the tourism sector were honoured. The delicious Premix Lounge played host to some of their favourite foodies this past week at the beautiful Epicure restaurant in Sandton. The delicious menu was curated by Chef D and Chef Coco, and boy oh boy, the food was appetizing. Guests were taken on a 5-course sensory experience, which was paired up with mouth-watering cocktails.
So we curated a 5-course menu, and I partnered with Chef Coco at Epicure. We curated a beautiful menu that looks at dishes from across the continent. We started in Ivory Coast and went to Central Africa, went to North Africa and South Africa, my favorite dish, and then the final one is dessert. It's a collaboration. Chef Coco has done 2 of the dishes, I've done 3 of the dishes. Very excited. I love working with him because he shares the same narrative as me. I have a restaurant, a Taste Kitchen in Maboneng. Please come. Taste Kitchen in Maboneng. And the narrative is the same. We celebrate Pan-African food. We like to make Africa look elegant on a plate.
But what inspired the dishes?
My whole idea of the meal I prepared today at Epicure, it was how can I work with brands like Tanqueray and Johnny Walker and create a great Pan-African food experience. So that's what I wanted to know to do, and to make every guest who came here to make sure that they travel around the continent and try and make, how can I say, a nice taste of each of the continent parts.
So if you missed all the food from the festival, don't stress, because Chef Coco has you covered.
First course was something for West Africa. We prepare a fish the way you will have it in Bassam, which is in Ivory Coast, with plantain, a little bit of tomato relish, and I add some onions, almost like a salad, to give a zing with it. Second course was a Central African course, where we did ostrich cooked with penja and hibiscus flower syrup. So the penja pepper give that nice, how can I say, spiciness to the meat. And then it was served with the acheke. Acheke is it's a couscous made from cassava flour. Next course was North African. It was a really modern interpretation of a tagine, lamb tagine served with couscous. After that we came back to South Africa, where I made oxtail served with samp and beans. And for dessert we went in East Africa rather, where we serve pineapple cooked with cardamom and served with the chai tea ice cream.
The food was amazing. The food was absolutely stunning. I've enjoyed most of the food. I mean, African food is just, it's too amazing. I mean, for an African to have an African taste today, but not just an African taste in a cosmopolitan way. It's quite amazing. I really did enjoy that food.
Oh, the food was amazing. Light, very easy to digest, and very quick to eat.
I enjoyed every single bite of it. It was also paired exceptionally well with the drinks, so it just broadened up the flavors and everything.
My favorite one was the starter. It was the fish, oh my god, and the tomato pesto. Oh my gosh, that was totally amazing. Yeah.
Mine was ostrich. I love ostrich. Yeah. And definitely the starter, I love it.
Either the fish or the lamb. So it's a bit of a toss-up between Chef T and Chef Coco. But as both chefs said, it's a journey across Africa in 5 courses, and paired with the drinks from Diageo, it's been an amazing day.
We'll be back with more of Trendz Travel right after this, so don't forget to get tweeting and get Instagramming on Trendz on SABC using the hashtag Trendz Travel.
Fitting into your thin pants. Being complimented on your weave when you're not wearing one. When you
new washing machine gives you all your socks back.
With so many good deals at the Tops at Spa Subfest, you'll find any reason to celebrate. Buy a 750ml bottle of Sky vodka in any flavor for only $189.99. Only at the Tops at Spa Subfest.
To be a part of something like this makes me proud, and I think that to be able to report the news in a fair, just, independent and impartial way is what the public broadcaster stands for.
Need to know more about the markets? This is where it all starts, at the SABC's headquarters in Auckland Park in Johannesburg, South Africa. We analyze, report, crunch the numbers, call in the experts, package the news and bring you critical global market updates from the JSE.
The continent's leaders in liquid market movement and the fastest growing secondary listings made right here.
Small businesses, the backbone of the economy. With South Africa's very high unemployment rate, it's said that 90% of new jobs could come from this sector.
Every weekday afternoon on DSTV channel 404.
Is he facing conspiracy? What is the nature of the corruption charges that he faces? But if it's a blatant kind of corruption case, he faces a potential 15 years in prison. And lest we forget, his father is in the dock in a few weeks' time, also facing corruption charges. So those parallels between father and son and the regime change in South Africa and what's happening with our courts at the moment will be something that is profoundly interesting, I think, to all South Africans.
Welcome back, guys, and if you're a lover of Plettenberg Bay as I am, then you'd know there is so much more to it than just the sand and the surf. So take a look at some of their amazing wine farms. Plettenberg Bay, a seaside town on the Garden Route in South Africa's Western Cape province. Coming here, one would be forgiven for thinking that its entire existence is only made up of beautiful beaches and magnificent views. Not forgetting its thriving seal populations. And of course, its yuppie city life. But there is so much more to Plet, as is affectionately known, than meets the eye. Surprisingly, this place boasts a staggering 16 wine estates, which form part of the new Wine of Origin Plettenberg Bay region that has already been scouted as the future Champagne district of South Africa. Today, Plet Wine Tours, a proven vehicle to bring the wine to the people and take the people to the wine, takes us on a tailor-made wine adventure. Our first stop, Plettenvale Boutique Vineyard. Believe it or not, this little house is the cellar where the journey of winemaking begins.
My intention was to make pink bubbly because it's my wine of choice, and I wanted to make it in the French tradition.
For the first 3 years, Gloria did the training and pruning of the vines herself and was basically thrown into the deep end of her passion because winemaking was new to the region and professionals were scarce.
And I'll take you into the cellar and show you. It's a very tiny, quite unique little cellar, but we do everything here. We obviously grow the grapes, we harvest the grapes, we press the grapes, we make the wine, we bottle the wine, we have our own bottle filler, we cork it.
In this small cellar, visitors get to have a very personal experience in the winemaking process.
What happens here is the grapes are harvested at a specific sugar content. For bubbly, you pick quite green because you need high acids and low sugars, because it goes through a second fermentation in the bottle, and in that process more sugar and yeast is added to create the CO2, the bubbles in the bottle.
Plettenvale is family run, and all that goes on in the winery and cellar is visible to visitors during the winery and cellar tour. The process is explained in detail, and any questions visitors might have are answered here to get a better and fuller understanding of all that goes into winemaking. It is a very sensory experience, and we are given the opportunity to not only see, but smell what is called the base wine.
You can't really see much, but if you like, you can come and have a smell.
I'll have a smell.
But tastes like nothing on earth at this stage. It's what we call base wine. And
after following all the intricate steps, a decision is made to cork the bubbly, and the bottles are loaded into the gyro plate.
From the back here, we load the bottles upside down in this crate. You can get 480 bottles in here, upside down, so that the yeast goes to the bottom.
So with this year and last year's MCC side by side, it's time to taste.
I'm going to now take you to the tasting room where the proof of the pudding is in the tasting, and you're going to come and taste now.
Then it's off to the taste room. Part of the experience at Plettenvale is the actual wine tasting, and a selection of wines are chosen. Their unwooded Chardonnay shows fragrances, citrus and stone fruit on the nose with a lingering freshness and round mouthfeel on the palate. Next was the dry rosé, with a ripe fruit first impression of strawberry and Turkish delight. One of my favorites is the award-winning Brut Rosé MCC. Not surprisingly, this one was the winner of the Best Brut Rosé MCC in South Africa at the Rosé Rocks 2015 competition. Last on the agenda was the Ruby Rush Our Blend. This is a light-styled red blend of Pinot Noir and Syrah with aromas of ripe red fruits, tobacco and a hint of fynbos, styled with Plettenberg Bay and summer in mind. The awareness of the Plet wine route is growing, so why don't you go and check it out? That's all we have here in this week's edition of Trendz Travel. Don't forget, we'd love to hear from you, so catch us on Twitter or on Instagram on Trendz on SABC using the hashtag Trendz Travel. For now, we'll see you again next week, same time, same place.